Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel is Just Certainly When It's True. Back in January, me and Phil Langdon had a talk, and our talk started out with basically, as the Bible illustrates, the different elements. That is, there's four elements that we speak of. This is the what I would call circling the square, so to speak. If you understood the pyramids are actually on a square itself. And that represents what we call fire, water, air, and wind, or not air, fire, water, and earth. And with those, it comes to the pinnacle as a triangle. Starting at a square, it becomes a triangle from 4 to 3 sided, and eventually to lead to what we call the ether, or spiritual, which is the fifth element. And that reveals that basically to deal with what we call the ascension. You ascend with the idea of putting all these four together and working your way, building a pyramid for yourself spiritually, individually, to ascend, and basically to enlighten yourself. So I'm going to read from 1 Kings chapter I think it's 9. If that's correct, let me make sure. I said 9. I'm sorry. It's chapter 13 of 1 Kings. And we'll start at verse 10. And this is all to deal with Samuel. Basically, I'm sorry, not Samuel, but Elijah. He feels very defeated. He's basically, the world's coming to an end to him in a lot of ways. So here we go. Verse 9. And it came thither unto a cave, a lodge there, and behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said unto him, What dost thou here, Elijah? In other words, why are you here? Why are you here, Elijah? And he said, in verse 10, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts. Well, this is what he's saying. I've been working my tail end of you, trying to reveal the truth. I feel like, where are you at? You don't hear my voice. For the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, they don't respect you, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left. In other words, I am poor. In some ways, it's like poor venerable me in a lot of ways, but it's also a sense of frustration. And they seek my life to take it away. And so God reveals back to me, and he said, quote, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passes by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. So there's your first sign there of the elements being air. And after the wind, an earthquake. Well, that earthquake is revealing the second element being the earth. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. Verse 12, and after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire, a still small voice. So there's three elements here he's revealing here, which is part of the square and the circle. It's part of you getting knowledge. It's part of you eventually getting that knowledge and being able to build a pyramid based upon the wisdom that you get from knowledge. This is what people don't understand here. You have to have an ability to know. And knowing or knowledge leads to wisdom, because then you can discern what is true and what is not. So you see the three aspects here of the elements he speaks of. One is being the wind, which is naturally the air. And two simply is that is to do with the earthquake. Well, naturally, that's from the earth. So that's the second element. And the third one simply, and after the earthquake, a fire. So that's the third one. So where's the fourth one? So we continue on in verse 13. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entering in of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, What dost thou here, Elisha? 14, and he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forgot. Anyway, sorry. I read those verses again. My voice is gone. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on the way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. So I understood the three elements here being, first of all, the air, which is revealed in the wind. I also see simply is that there's a earthquake, so that's the earth. And the third one is fire. And so verse 15 comes to the point simply, and he pointed this out to me simply, is Damascus means water. That's what it means. So those are the four elements in that particular book. What we're looking at is 1 Kings, chapter 13. I'm sorry, I keep saying 13. It's first chapter 19. It's getting late here, so sorry. 1 Kings chapter 19, starting with verse 9 and going to basically to the verse 13, where he reveals basically, actually like 13, but down to 15, meaning Damascus, meaning water. And so what he's explaining here is to do with the four elements that eventually create the ether, or your spiritual ascension. So what it's revealing here is that these four elements are working together to create bricks, as he points out. First, it develops clay. You put clay under heat, you put pressure, and develops bricks. And the bricks become simply as you build your pyramid. And when you build your pyramid, eventually it goes upward. So that reveals something that's been hidden. You'll notice that if you look in the Masons deal, you'll see something else that's significant to do with what I call the cloud. And you'll see the single eye. The single eye is here. You see, it's your pineal gland. That's what they're referring to. So many people think the Masons are bad people. And I've done that myself. So I'm no better than anybody else. I thought that too. But it's an illustration simply is to do with ascension again. You know, the ladder. The ladder ascending between two pillars. The two pillars become one. See. And it leads to spiritual ascension or enlightenment. And that's also revealed on the cross with Jesus also, because Jesus ascended to heaven. And as Phil speaks of, heaven is a cloud. It is. That's how we know there is a heaven, so to speak, above us. Because sky it doesn't give you a direction unless you have a cloud there. It gives you an idea how far it is up from the ground, so to speak. So the Masons also revealing truth there also, if you can see. Because there's a single eye there. There's not a double eye. There's a single eye, you see. And so what's transpiring here is alluring here is again to do with Damascus, is to do with water. So again, these are the four elements to make a pyramid. A pyramid leads to your ascension. The Bible is speaking of this in many ways. This is just one example. And maybe you should look and see where you find these areas of fire, water, air, such and such. Because they're speaking in a language in a cryptic type of way. And only a few people see these things. Most people don't read the Bible anymore because, frankly, they don't understand it. And there's no way they can understand it, because in reality, simply is a lot of it's scripted. So I don't want to keep a long time here. It's about, say after 12 o'clock here on the East Coast. But this video is about 10 minutes, and I don't want to go any longer. So that's just something he revealed and shared with me a couple of months ago. So thank you for being here, and I wish you a good evening. And may you have ears to hear and eyes to see the truth. Have a good night.